Hi, thanks for joining me today. I have really been reflecting on the type of guest that I want to have for my show, and I'm coming up actually on my 100th episode very soon. And I'm going to record the 100th episode with my husband because he came in and did the first couple of episodes with me, and it was just nice to have somebody be there as I was kind of going through and trying to teach myself how to do my own podcast where I was recording it and editing it and coming up with the idea for it and doing that. And so I think I've gotten better at my podcasting, especially after doing over 100 episodes really with my other podcast. And I've done podcasts for my corporate job and I think it's fun. But I want to, there's certain people that I love to interview. And those people, I'm starting to trend more towards kind of paranormal. My friend Matt calls it, oh, it's like the X Files in some way. And my aunt's like, oh, you always have a different guest. I mean, my guest could be somebody that is taking me through my past life regression. It could be a psychic medium. It could be a person that's doing numerology. It could also be an actor or a singer or a person that writes books or someone that started a company, or a person that's been cheated on by their husband, or a person that is going through a transition to be a woman or to transition to be a man. It could be anyone. Like I have that's why my show is called Everything and Anything, because I want to have guests on that I like and that I find interesting and inspiring. And I want to bring you their stories. So I have interviewed a person that does healing, and his name is Xavier, and you will hear his episode today. Xavier reached out to me and basically said that he knows how to heal people, and I said, "Oh, this sounds super interesting." I watch documentaries and shows on people that are say that they're touched by God and they can do this healing, and they have, these churches down in Latin America, and they have thousands of people coming in one after the other, and they're healing them, taking away cancer, or taking away a tumor, or taking away this pain from them. And, they've all been exposed, most of them, for not being authentic and for being fake. But I have to say, I went in with a very open mind with Xavier. I did the interview thinking, like, how like, hey, how's he going to fake this with me? So, like, if he's going to tell these stories and they're not real, then, fine. And then how will I ever know? But he was an interesting guy. And I just felt during the interview, he was truthful about what he was saying. He felt authentic to me. And I was just going with my gut feeling. And he was a great interview. And I loved his stories. And I loved the way that he has helped people. And at the end of the interview, when we stopped recording, I asked him, would you be willing to meet with my mother? So my mother has had knee replacement, hip replacement, a shoulder replacement. She had a shoulder replacement. She fell down, broke her arm, and now she's going through physical therapy. And she can't use her arm as well as she should be, which she can't drive her car right now. So she's dependent on friends and family to take her to the grocery store or shopping or to her doctor's appointments or whatever, because she can't quite drive yet. She's almost there, but she can't drive yet. And I said, would you help her? Would you be willing to talk with her? He goes, absolutely. He didn't pause for a moment and said he would be definitely willing to help. And I called my mom and said, Mom, I interviewed this guy on my podcast. He said he is a person that can heal people. Would you be interested in talking with him? She didn't pause for 1 second and said, yes, absolutely. Like, let me know when. And so I emailed Xavier back. I said, Xavier, this is when my mom can do it. Does that work for you? He said, yep, I'll call her at 5 o'clock. I gave him her phone number. He has to FaceTime or Zoom. So he FaceTimed her because he has to see the person's eyes. And so he FaceTimed my mom, which is a shock that she even knows how to use FaceTime, but she was able to answer the phone. She told me that he talked to her for about 5 minutes, just about like what was going on with her, what was hurting, what was her issue. And then he sat there kind of in silent for about 10 minutes with his eyes closed. And then it was over. It was a 15-minute call. And she called me afterwards and I said, "How did it go with Xavier?" She goes, "It went well." And I said, "Well, do you feel better?" She goes, I don't know, maybe I feel a little better, but he told me that most likely I'll go to sleep tonight and I'll wake up and I'll feel a difference tomorrow morning." I said, "Okay." So next morning, I call her. I'm like, "How are you feeling?" She goes, Actually feel better. I can move my shoulder better. I feel a difference." I said, Are you serious?" And she said, "Yeah, I feel a huge difference in my shoulder." She goes, "I think what Xavier did worked." And I was kind of shocked in a way. I, I mean, it's not that I did not doubt, and I didn't think Xavier was lying during our interview at all. But I guess it's just when if it really happens to someone close to you or even yourself, you're shocked because you're like, she's gone through so much pain and surgeries and breaking her arm twice. And for him to have a 15-minute call with her to make her feel better is just amazing. And you have to listen to his interview. I'm a believer in Xavier. And also, the other thing is, you can reach out to him yourself, and he charges very, very little to help someone. It's $25 is all he's asking for to do a Zoom call or to do it over Zoom or FaceTime. If you want to meet in person, it's a little more, but you don't need to meet in person. That's the thing. He did this over the phone with my mom. And it's amazing because I have proof now because she says my shoulder literally feels better. I can move my arm more. So Xavier is an amazing person. And I'm excited for you to listen to this podcast and you can be the judge for yourself. But I'm telling you from a real life experience, what he is talking about is true and he is a healer. So there's amazing people in this world and I'm always so happy to bring them to you. So I hope you enjoy the episode. Thanks. Hi, thanks for joining me on the Everything and Anything podcast. Today, I have a guest that I was so excited to meet and to interview. His name is Xavier Roman, and he is a healer and an energist. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, that's correct.
And I read about him. I've watched videos about him. I've done some research on him, and I think he's fascinating. And I'm so excited to hear his story. So, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
So tell me, I know because I've researched you a little bit, but tell me a little bit about how you discovered this gift that you have.
Well, it all started off when I was 5 years old. There's a park near my house, and I know I had been right in the area of the park on a corner, and across the corner from me, I seen a mom and a child. They were both crying in the corner. It was like late afternoon. And the child was hugging the mom, and the mom was just like looking forward a little bit. They were both crying, and then at that moment, I was a little scared because they were crying, and I was like, at 5 years old, you see somebody crying, then you're like, oh my God, like what's going on? Like I know that's bad. And I was like, oh my God, I wish I could help them. Like I want to help them. I really want to help. Like how could I help them? Being 5 years old, you're naive but you don't know what to do. I had this knowing, this feeling like, you could help them. You could help. You could help. And for some dumb reason at the time, I just closed my eyes. And when I closed my eyes, I felt like this white light come all around me. And especially in my eyes, I could just feel myself and see myself in a white light. And as I see myself in white light, I wanted that white light to go right towards them. And, I'm bowed down and, cars are passing, going back and forth. But I kind of didn't care. And it went towards them, and then I could see the white light go around them. And I waited a little bit while longer, and I opened my eyes. And about 2 seconds after that, the mom just stopped crying, and then the child, he let go of the mom, and he started looking around. He stopped crying, and she was looking around, and then I'm looking at them and looking around too, like, hey, what's going on? Like, did I do that? I was like, did I really do that? Like,
Yeah.
no, I couldn't have did it. Like, no, but I wanted to do that. So maybe I did that. And then I'm like, oh my God. And they're still looking around. And next thing you know, I see the child, he's talking to mom, and mom's looking down, talking to him. And yeah, everything just stopped. And then I was like, wait, am I a superhero? Like, oh, no. Like, really? Like, you know what? Yeah, I might be. And, I'm a little bit, going on my tippy toes, like, well, let's see if I could fly. Okay, this flying thing isn't working.
Yeah.
Let me see. I don't know if I started looking at my hands, like, wow, I don't know if I could move a car or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, maybe I'm not a superhero. But maybe I am. I just got to figure this thing out. And so then I was like, no, I didn't do that. No, I didn't do that. Maybe it was just something happened or luck or something like that.
Yeah.
I didn't think that I knew the word coincidence back at 5. But I just, all these things are going through my head. So I'm walking home and I'm like, wow, I'm thinking about all these possibilities. And I'm like, where did that happen? Where did that come from? How did that happen?
And did they
Why? And
acknowledge you at all that you did something to them?
no, no, no. They just seemed in a daze and they're just looking around like, almost like what made us stop so fast?
Yeah.
They just look bewildered. Like they're just like looking around like, what? What is
Yeah.
that? Like, but I know they stopped right away. And I know they were crying because I could see them and hear them across the street. What it was, we'll never know. But yeah, I know that for sure that, it just stopped right away. So I'm walking home like, like, what if this? What if that? What if this? Who should I tell? I'm not telling nobody. No. Should I tell them? Nope. They're gonna say this. Should I tell them? Nope. Should I tell
Yeah.
my mom? Nope. I'm not gonna tell them. My siblings? Nope. And so I didn't. I said, okay, I'm just never gonna tell nobody about this, but I'm gonna keep on trying this. And so as time went on, if I went to doctor's visits or doctor's offices, or if my mom went to a doctor, I would say, hey, can I go? No, hey, I'm just going for this. I'm just going for that. Like, no. I promise. I'll just sit down and I'll keep quiet. I won't say nothing in there. I'll just sit down in the waiting room. And so then as I would go to doctor's visits, I would try to look for somebody who looked sick, not just was going for an appointment, somebody who their face may look like, like hurting, holding their stomach, holding their arms, something like that. And I would find that person, in the crowd and say, okay, let me try this on you. And then I would just do this little blow, put my head down, and I'd see that white light again, and I'd direct it right towards them. And then I open my eyes, and then I would notice that their face looked a little bit like, and then they would touch themselves wherever they were hurt, like they would say stomach, and then they were like, like poking themselves, like, hey, Mr. Payne, where are you at? Hey, wait, I came for the stomach pain. Like, you see them standing up, like, oh, like, sure, man.
Like they were relieved in a way, right? It sounds like.
Yeah, yes. That was the feeling. The feeling was always relieved, but they were looking for that pain to come back. Like, hey, you were just here. I'm here for this appointment. If this pain is going to erupt, then like, hey, I don't know what to do. And some people, as appointments went on that I would go to, or doctor's offices, I would go visit. Then I would see some of them, like after a while, like they would get up and go to this. Hey, I'm going to reschedule. I got something came up. This and that. And I'm like, oh wow, it worked. And now I'm like, oh, that was cool. It worked. And, and I would continue to do that. Especially, I would really like it if there was a way I could go to a hospital with my mom or something like that. Then I would just look for somebody like who was doing the same or even worse and so forth. And then I would just go ahead and continue to do that with people. And
did you tell your mom at this point that this was happening, or you kept it a secret?
I just kept it to myself. Because, I forgot what show it was, but on the show, some parent on the show called their kid and said, "You're crazy," because of
Yeah.
something they said that, "Oh, this happened, mom," this and that. Like, no, it didn't happen. Like, "Oh, you're just imagining things. You're
Yeah.
crazy," and this and that. It may have been a fun show, but like, around that age, you took it literally. Like, I'm not going to be crazy.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna call me that. I said, but I'm gonna continue to do this, and I would just do it, and it just went on. It just kept on.
And then something happened whenever you were 11 or so with a near-death experience, or your mother.
Yeah, actually, my mom was first. Okay, so that was in 2005. Yeah, 2005. My mom had got into a bad vehicle accident. It's one of those ones where you go to the emergency room and doctor comes to talk to you and the family, and they tell you, hey, look, it's touch and go. Anything can happen. We're gonna go hour by hour.
Yeah.
She could make it. She might not. She suffered this from got hit in the head, brain injury, spine injury, lungs, and so forth. And so then we got into that situation, and I can remember at the time. My oldest sister, she's telling me, she's like, "Hey, what's going on with you? Like, why are you so calm?" Or like this, that. And I said, "It's gonna be all right, for real. Like, you really think, like, no. I know it's gonna be all right. I know what he said, but I know that it's gonna be all right. Just a lot of work ahead and so forth."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, that's not what the doctor says." Yeah, I know. Just work with me. Go with me. And we're in the hospital room, and they bring in the chaplain to say, "Hey, let's do a prayer." They thought the situation had got worse, and I just stood there, but I didn't take part of it because I was like, "Well, why are we doing this if this is this is not necessary? No real reason to do this." So I just stood there. Everybody's praying. So okay, let's go through the motions. Let's not be rude, and so I did that. And as time went on, I would stay with my mom overnight and do those same things that I said when I was little. And I seen healing taking place, and she got better. And of course, she never passed. She's still here.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was 19 years ago. Yeah, and she made it. But the interesting is while she was in that ICU, I went through, different rooms, by the doorways to see like who looked real bad.
Yeah.
I would ask people, and there was one person in particular, there was like 3 doors down, and I noticed he had a pump coming out of his head, like 2 of them, and I could like red, like blood coming out of the pump and stuff, like it's like a draining type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
The lady, I guess, what turned out to be his wife, she's like, "Hey, can I help you?" And I was like, "You know what? I passed by, this is your husband, right?" She said, "Yeah." She says, "I passed by him quite a few times. And is there any way I could try to help him?" She's like, what do you mean?" I said, "I think I could help him." It's like, "You can?" Yeah, I was like, "Yeah, I really think I can help him. I don't, I'm not a doctor or anything like that, but I just need to sit by him. That's all I need to do." And she started laughing, and she's like, "Come on in, come on in." And then she's like, "This is John." She's like, "John, this is Xavier." And she's like, "Xavier's going to go ahead and try to help you." I said, "Hey, John." And he's really impaired from his brain. You could tell,
Mm-hmm.
his eyes are like crossed, and he's just like almost in a daze. So she's like, "Do you want to come now?" And I said, "Yeah, that's fine." And so then I went in, and I said, "I'll just sit right here, at the end of the bed." And she says, "You want me to leave?" I said, "You could stay if you want." I said, "All I'm going to do is just go ahead and sit here. But if you want to stay, you could. If not, then, that's fine too, I says, "Maybe you'll feel a little bit of this goodness." I said, "So just sit back and relax." And so, I went ahead and I did it. I did the same thing. And then I told her, I said, "Okay, he's going to get better." She's like, "Oh, I'm like, oh, I really hope so." I'm like, I don't see no changes now. I said, "Well, he's got a lot going on." And she's like, yeah, we've been here for 2 years, you know.
Oh, wow.
She says, we actually had to come in and go out. That's, where we've been. And I said, hey, that's fine. I says, but I think things will change. You got to remember, no matter how your eyes perceive how bad things are, things could change. And in this case, I think things will change. I says, because I seen him different. I see him like you don't see him right now.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, yeah, I hope, she was happy, but she was being, kind and so forth. Like, man, that's good. I hope, this sounds good. But she was weighing on the years that they've been in and out, and especially in the
Yeah.
ICU right there. And so, she gave me a hug, and I said, yeah, I'm over there at the corner with my mom and so forth. And blah, blah, blah. She said, okay, well, hey, maybe I'll see you one time, this and that. I appreciate it. Thank you. I said, hey, the room does feel a little different, it feels like, it feels really light in here. It feels like, it feels cozy and this and that. I said, oh, okay, good. That's the start. I said, I felt the same thing, but that's good that you pointed that out without me asking. I said, okay, so just, hold tight and, yeah, things will change. And then I left. So my mom was there for a couple of months, in the hospital herself, maybe a month and a half or two. And so she got transferred over to another building. This is downtown Chicago. She got transferred to another building, which was just for rehabilitation. So she left the hospital and got transferred to the rehabilitation center. And I can remember as I was visiting my mom, a couple months later, while she was in there, because she had been in there for like about a month, maybe more. And I was leaving from visiting her. I was coming down the elevator. The elevator opens up so we could go to the main floor. And lo and behold, here's John and his wife.
Wow.
And she looked at me, and there's only one person in the elevator, and I'm coming out. She was like, and she's like, X, because she had an accent. And then I was like, yes. I said, yes. I says, oh my God. She's like, that's him, John, that's him. She's like, John, he's the one, John, he's the one. And John, he's, I guess I don't know why he was there. Maybe he's going to rehab or coming, or maybe they're grabbing a snack downstairs. But, he was still kind of, he was good because obviously he was standing up and she was holding him by the arm. And she's like, he's the one, blah, 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 blah. She's holding me, give me a hug. I come out the elevator so we won't hold traffic. And she's crying and this and that. And she's like, oh my God. She says, I can't tell you, like we got transferred. That's why I never came back to see you by your mom's. And this happened and this happened, it all started to change on that one day. And it's like, she said, I couldn't believe it, but like, she said, I knew that's what it was because nothing changed. And all of a sudden things just changed, like even that night, he started looking at me like his eyes were clear, like he was serious. And like, hey, started saying a couple words clear, like, what? John doesn't talk clear. John talks, because of his brain stuff. So like, she's like, oh my God. And then, he's like, hey, thank you, this and that. I says, hey, listen, it's not me. It's just what comes to me, but it's never me, that does this and so forth. And like, hey, you need to come to our restaurant. No, it's okay, this, that. I says, I just take pleasure in seeing him and so forth and how he looks, and how he's changed. That's a good enough dinner for me. She said, no, you're gonna come to our restaurant, blah blah blah. And I said, okay, just give me the address and I'll go ahead and make it there, at some sort of time, this, that, and and then that was it. I hugged some more, just crying some more.
I guess just kind of start, where do you think this came from? Like, how do you think you got this ability, basically, or it is like a superhero in a lot of ways? Like, how do you think that, however this came to you, how do you think you were chosen?
I don't know how I was chosen. That would be cool. But I just, it's just a gift from God, I would say, that I know of.
And are you religious at all?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I'm not really religious. I was raised, as a Catholic. I did go to Catholic school as a child,
Yeah.
uh, from kindergarten to third grade. So I did do that, but I'm not religious. Of course, I believe in God and Jesus and so forth and
Yeah.
others. But yeah, I'm not religious.
How often are you doing this? Like how I mean, I think it looks like people can book time with you on your website, right? To kind of do this. So you can do it in person or you can do it kind of from a distance as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, as long as I can see a person's eyes, I can do it online. I just need to go ahead and see that person's eyes. Yeah, sometimes people will go ahead and send me pictures. Hey, is this good enough? I says, hey, look, I mean, like it's worth a try, but like I really
Yeah.
got to see this person. So like when people set things up, like if the person's in the hospital, the emergency room, or so forth, I just say, hey, just point the camera towards his eyes. Just
Yeah.
that's all I say. I know his eyes are closed. I said, but just point it right at this, so I know who I'm dealing with. He doesn't need to know who he's dealing with. If he's unconscious, just point it right at his face. Actually, so
And does it work every time?
I would say majority of the time. If we had to do percentage, I would say about 90%.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I would say about
And are
90%.
you doing things so physical illnesses, mental illness? So I don't know if somebody has arthritis or they have they're mentally unstable in a way, like they're depressed or whatever. Can you help with all that?
Yeah, I could. Yeah, I could. Matter of fact, there's a guy that he's in the neighborhood where I live, and you can see him walking up and down the street. And he was going through an episode, speaking to himself, walking in the middle of the street and so forth. So I said, hey, come here, real quick, come here. And he said, no. Okay, yeah, I'll come to you. I said, hey, let me try something. Just sit still. Let me try something. I said, I think this could make you better. And I would just put my head down and say, he says, what are you doing? I said, oh, just relax. I said, you feel that? And he's like, feel what? I said, and then I opened my eyes, how do you feel? I said, I feel good. I said, how do you feel though? Your state, your being,
Yeah.
happy, sad, glad, excited. He says, I feel calm. That's all we wanted to do.
Yeah.
I said, okay, you have a good day. I said, I just wanted to give you a little break, man. Give you a little break from whatever you go through. They said, yeah, that feels good.
And does it last? Does it continuously last for them though once you do this?
With that guy in particular, I don't see it lasting. I mean, I see him walking around the street sometimes, and he still does, speak with himself.
Yeah.
But there are people, who I do go ahead and meet with, and it does last. And some people, it will improve things. Some people, it'll help them at the moment, and then later on, they're
Coming back. They're
possibly back to where they are. Yeah.
And does it drain you as a person whenever you're doing this?
No, I always get that question. I actually, after I finish doing the session, I actually feel better.
You
I feel
do?
strong. Yeah, I feel stronger. I feel better. I feel more elated. Like I told somebody, it says, you know what? I feel like I'm not going to try it. I said, but I feel like I could lift the back of a car right now.
Yeah.
I said,
Your endorphins must be going. Like you must feel so good.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely feel good. That wears off, but just for that moment in time, it feels real good.
And how many people are you kind of helping, or how many people have you helped in a day? Like the most amount of people you've kind of helped in one day?
In a day, we do half hour by half hour, about 20. Because
Wow.
sometimes people could, I mean, a little bit over 20, just giving general.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people will call like, hey, my daughter's here, we're in the hospital and she's going through this and that. And then my assistant will go ahead and say, hey, let me talk to him, and see how we could squeeze you in,
Yeah.
He only needs a few minutes anyway. So maybe let me see if I can squeeze you 10 minutes in here, 10 minutes there. You got to be by your phone. You got to do this. and so forth. And then I'll just be like, you know what, hey, just forgive me. Like,
Yeah.
we're doing this anyway. Like, let's just go ahead. And I'll just see them. They'll have their, they'll use their phones and, I'll be online. And then, I'll help them out. And
And is this
things will
what you do
change.
full time? Is this like what your full time job
Uh,
is?
well, it depends on my schedule. It's not what I do full time, but it does depend on my schedule. Because I try to, when people do go ahead, I try to put things in the schedule, like if they need a time slot and so forth. Yeah, other than that, I have a business, a clothing business. And
Yeah.
so, I just try to go ahead and mix it in based on schedules.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And how does it make you feel knowing that you've helped all these people? You must feel like an amazing, I mean, you must really, you have to feel great about yourself. Like, think of all the people you've helped in this world to feel better.
Yeah, no, I do feel real good. I mean, like saying how I feel great about myself, I really never do feel real great about myself. I just feel great for them. I just
But
feel
you should
great
take a
for.
moment though and think about what you've done though. Like, that's so amazing. You really should feel awesome about yourself. Like, you're doing amazing things.
Yeah, I mean, I do, but like after you do it so long, so many times, then you're just like, you're just going through the motions, and you don't. At the beginning, I felt like that. Like once I like really started like going public, once I
Yeah.
went public, at the beginning I did, but then after a while, just like, hey, like I feel good for them, like not for me because I already feel good internally from helping.
Yeah.
So, I get that feeling. I never feel drained from doing stuff like that. So I feel more good for them.
And
Yeah.
can you sense when somebody has like something wrong with them though? Like,
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes
yeah.
I could, but I don't open my mouth to go ahead and just say something straight up. Like, hey, listen, you got to go. Like, there's something going on right here by your heart. Like,
Yeah.
you probably don't see it. You don't feel it, this and that. But I know you've had a sign or a couple signs, but you need to go get that checked out. I'm not scaring you. Don't go to the ER or anything like that. I'm not saying do that.
Yeah.
How about Monday? You go ahead and make a call. I'm like, hey, I want to get a checkup.
Yeah.
I would really think. You think so? You think so? Yeah, yeah. I know. So you should really go ahead and try that out. It's not going to hurt you anyway. You're due for a checkup anyway, aren't you? Yeah. Okay. So you haven't been going. Okay. So go ahead and make that happen.
And if you and I'm sure you've thought about this many times, and I know you don't know how you got this ability, but have you thought about it though? Like, possibilities of what you thought maybe the reason why you were chosen.
You know what? I thought about that after my NDE. After
Okay,
my
yeah, tell me about
yeah,
that.
yeah, after my NDE, 2010, it all started. I was in one of my rooms, and I was watching TV, and boom, my stomach started to hurt, but the right side of my stomach, and I was like, "Hey, what's going on? Like, why does this stomach, hurt?" I was like, "Okay, maybe something's just passing through. It'll get better. Yeah, well, let's just see." And then it just kept on and kept on. It felt so bad, and I was like, "Come on, my stomach's got to get better soon. Like, what is going on?" So I tried to take a couple of things, and then it just got worse. Next thing you know, I'm like in the fetal position, and
Oh
I'm like,
wow.
And at the time, I'm like, I called my wife, and I was like, "Hey, something's going on. My stomach is real bad, but it's not so much my stomach. It's to the right of my stomach." I said, "It's something else." I said, "I don't know what it is, but it's not normal." It's like, okay, well, coming home, and I was like, then it got worse. I said, okay, maybe I got to go to the washroom. Okay, maybe I got this. Maybe I got this. Like, man, what is this? And the funny thing is that I'm like, okay, let me close my eyes. Let me see if I can help myself. And then I was like, this ain't working.
Yeah.
And then I was like, then it starts getting worse. And then at the time, my wife comes and she's like, "Hey, what's going on?" And I was like, "We got to go." So we got to go to the hospital. This is, oh my God. I said, this is bad. I said, let's just go. And she's like, okay, should we go to the hospital here or here, there? I said, no, we're going to go downtown. I said, I know it'll take us longer. I'll be in pain longer, but we need to go there because I'm not coming back home. I says, I already know this. He said, how do you know, blah, blah? I says, look, I'm telling you, I'm not coming back home like right away. I says, so I want to go somewhere where there's going to be good care long term. I don't
Yeah.
need stitches, like we could go
Yeah.
here for stitches 10 minutes away. I said, but we're going to take the 40-minute trip because I'm going to be staying. And so we went. Then like, oh, you got appendicitis and this and that. And, I don't know if it burst or if it was about to burst or something like that. So then I said, okay. They're like, okay, we're going to get you prepped, for the surgery and so forth. And at that point, I was like, whatever, here, drink this, whatever, like, let's just go at this stuff. But then they gave me something to calm down. And I felt better, but I knew but you could still feel it there. And did the surgery, came out, got back home, and they'd give me some meds from there. And then like 7 days later, after they gave me the meds, but on the last day, before I finished the meds, I started getting hot and I started getting cold. And hot and then cold. And I remember it's like 104 degrees outside. Like, how am I going to be cold? Like, you got the air on, but the air is not making me freeze. I'm on the covers, shivering. I say, hey, you want to call that hospital and let them know what's happening. And they said, oh, okay, you're going to have to bring him in. That's a good sign that he's got some kind of infection going. I'm like, I was like, okay, let's go. And I felt so bad, just like internally weak and everything. And my wife at the time, she's like, oh man, hopefully they can give me some. I was like, no. I said, this is going to be a little bit worse than the last time that I told you that I'm going to stay. She's like, come on, you can't be serious. I says, yeah. I said, this is something more than just this appendix surgery. I says, this is more. I said, I don't know what it is, but I have this internal feeling. She's like, oh man. So I hope you're around right. I said, look, I'm telling you what the Lord knows.
Yeah.
I says, this is something. She's like, all right. So we go ahead. We get there and they give me something. They put me in a room after the ER room and they have stuff connected, I guess to combat the infection and so forth. Doctor comes in. She's like, hey, listen, you have this infection. It's from the surgery, of course, but it's going on up to your heart. She says, now what happened to the surgery right away?
Oh, wow.
Real soon. She says, if it gets to right here, she says, there's nothing we can do. And I was like, well, what do you mean there's nothing? She said, then that'll be it. I said, that'll be it what? She said, you'll pass. I was like, what? I was like, my wife's like, come on, we came in here for just, so you can get some some kind of medical attention and some, maybe an IV or something. Like, and she's like, yeah, I'm sorry. And she's like, I say, oh my God. She said, yeah, I'm sorry. Like, oh my God. Like, oh, this is real. Like, this is real. Like, she said, she's sorry. Like as if someone died and she's telling us. I'm like, okay, well, hey, we have no choice. Come on, let's do it. We don't have no choice. Let's do it. She said, okay, well, we're going to do it at this time and so forth. But we're going to let this run overnight. But then if it doesn't work, which I don't think it's going to work, she says, then we'll schedule you for, I don't know, it's like 5 in the morning, 4 in the morning, something like that.
Yeah.
And it was already nighttime. And I was like, hey, whatever. And I'm this and that. And so I go ahead. I go in. They wheel me in. And we're in the room. And, I don't know if you've ever had a surgery when once they put the thing over your face.
Yeah,
okay.
I have my wisdom teeth out and then you're out.
Okay. Yeah, so they say, okay, count to 3. Before 3, you'll be out. I'm like, 1, boom. And I was about to make it to 2 and boom, And so shortly after then, I am outside of my body. I'm watching them, perform the surgery, and then my arms are crossed like this, and I'm just watching. And then I see the guy with the scalpel. He's cutting from my navel, from my belly button, all the way down.
Mhm.
And when he cuts, boom, a whole bunch of stuff, blood and pus, whatever.
Yeah.
It goes on him. Luckily, he had one of those plastic masks, when they do
Yeah.
surgery. So he must have known it was going to happen. So he got on him. He's like, oh, crap, and so forth. And, he's doing, his job. And then, boom, all of a sudden, the signals go on, the flat light.
Yeah.
And then, boom, they start moving around. I heard this guy, he swore, he said, oh, shit, and then the other surgeon doctors, they're saying stuff, and now they're starting to scramble real quick. Hey, this, that, this, that. And I'm just looking. I didn't have just observing. I didn't have no opinion. No, like, oh my God, you better help me. There was nothing like that. And then I'm gone, and then I leave, and then I go through this place where it's like, you ever seen the Wizard of Oz? The old one?
Yeah.
So I go through these, it's these bricks, just like the Wizard of Oz, but wider. And then there's trees going up and meeting each other, almost like a tunnel.
Yeah.
And it's real bright in there. And I'm walking, I'm like, where am I? I could see it right now as I walk outside. So, it's real nice around here. Wow, it's beautiful. Wow, look at all the grass and trees. Everything is perfect. And then I'm walking, then I'm running. I said, oh my God, like I feel so good. And I started to do flips, and I'm starting to, jump around, crazy stuff. It almost felt cartoonish.
Yeah.
But it was real. And then I come to the end, and then boom, I see all this white light, and then I'm walking towards the white light. And then, I see these, see people, coming towards me, and people that I've known that passed away, and go through it. And then automatically I'm like, I'm on another plane. So then I walk through, and then I come up to this pond lake, and there's a bench, and I sit down. I'm just looking around, hey, where am I? And then I did a lot of checking out the scene of where I was at. So it was real peaceful. Everything was perfect.
And did you feel good?
I felt like 100%. I mean, like beyond 100%. Like I felt perfect.
Yeah.
I felt perfect. Everything looked perfect. I felt perfect. And I'm just walking around, and then I keep on walking, and then I come to a cliff, and then I'm looking out at the cliff, almost like as if you're seeing what is that thing that I forgot that park where you got all the mountains and so forth, like
Grand Canyon.
Yeah, some almost like that.
Yeah.
So if you go off one of those cliffs, then you could just see like what almost looks like thousands of feet down.
Yeah.
And so then I get right there, and all of a sudden these clouds come right to me, and almost like a step. And so I'm walking up step, and I just feel this presence as I'm walking up on the step of these clouds, and it never ends to the right, never ends to the left, and then you can just feel this presence. What I would say, that's what we call God, and so forth, because it was all love, and it was you can't even really express it because it was so perfect,
And
so
did you
loving.
speak to anybody when you were there that has passed?
Yes. As I came back down and I went, I spoke to an old friend of mine, childhood friend. I spoke with him. And at the end, I spoke with my grandmother. And then she says, hey, do you want to stay? And I couldn't answer that question right away. Yeah, I couldn't answer that question right away. I says, no, I'm going to go back. So I got some things to do. And she says, oh, I know you're going to come back. She says, we all come here. She's laughing and stuff like that. And I said, yeah, no, I'm going to go ahead. I got some things that I want to do, and I'm going to do them. And she gave me a hug. And then next thing you know, boom, I wake up and I'm in the post-op room, and I see the nurse. She's to the right of me at the end of my feet by sitting like on a chair back there.
Yeah.
And she gets up. She says, "Hey, Mr. Roman. Hey, you okay? You okay?" And I'm like, and I'm just like dazed, like from the medicine,
Yeah.
pain stuff. I'm just like, but I could look, I could see. And her lower shoes on my right side. She's like, "You okay?" She said, "Okay. Let me go over a couple of things with you if you're ready." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, it's okay. Go ahead." And she said, "Don't touch your stomach." She's like, "There's bandages on top of it, but it's open." She says, "So they didn't close it." She says, "It's going to close from the bottom all the way to the top. It's going to close on its own by itself." She says, "Don't close, don't touch these sides. You got these pumps, right here, taking out, other stuff that, so you won't get infected." And I'm like, "Okay." And she's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Yeah." She's like, "You know what? We almost lost you." She's like, "But Doc and those guys and the team, they brought you back." And boom, my eyes popped open. I was like, "Oh my God. That was real." And the monitor, the heart rate monitors just like going dun, 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 dun. And I was fighting through the medicine and everything else that just took place. And I was just like, oh, that was real. That was real. And, she's like, "Well, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I was like, I said, I seen them doing surgery on me. She said, I stood there at the end while they were doing surgery. She's like, "Oh my God." She said, "Are you serious?" "Yeah." I said, and then I went here. I'm losing my breath. I'm like, then I went here. And then, this happened. And, and then I went here. And then I seen this. And she's like, "Oh my God." She's like, "I've been here so many years." I don't know, 20-something years. I don't know. She's been there a long, long time. She says, "And I've never experienced this. I've heard of other people experiences, other nurses like that, experiencing someone that's crossed over and this and that." She's like, "Yeah, this is my first one, and I'm almost getting ready to retire and this and that." And she's like, "Oh, this is so cool." She said, "Oh, I got so many questions to ask you." She's like, "I'm going to let you relax, just because you need to really relax. And you need to learn how to pump this morphine pump, when you need it, this and that." And I was like, I'm just like, I'm lost. I'm hearing what she's saying, but I'm stuck. My mind's like, wow, And
what happened when you finally told your mom and other people about this? Were they in shock? Or did they not believe you?
I didn't tell them.
Oh, but your mom knows today, though, right? Or no?
Yeah. She knows today, but I'm like, at the time, I didn't tell them. I didn't even tell my wife at the time, and she was right there. She was like right to the whole situation.
But when you finally did tell them, were they just amazed, or do they doubt it at all, or?
I think at the time my mom thought that was like, wow, like that's really cool. She's like, yeah, she's like, I see these stories, on TV, like they have specials with this and that. She's like, wow, and they ask the questions, "What'd you see? What'd they say?" Blah, 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 blah. Thousands of questions, because so much happened over there in such a quick time, because time is different on that side than here, I think. Yeah. And, my family, they've really never said nothing about it. They've, to this day, they've never, I think my oldest sister has, but my family, they really never said nothing about it, even to this day.
And do you ever have people that are skeptical, like, do they don't believe you, or they think that you're not real? Do you ever get that? And I mean, that must make you feel, not great, because you're doing these great things.
Yeah, when it comes to that, to the NDE, to the near-death experience, that
well, no, more about the healing I was talking about.
Oh, the healing. Okay, yeah. Now that's something that I expected to happen, and that's why it took me so long to go ahead and bring it out to the public. But I was more caring about helping people than me feeling
accepted.
Accepted as far as can you help you this and that. So yeah, I knew that was going to happen. I get that, and it's fine. it's fine.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel bad if the like, hey, I don't believe you. I don't think you could do this. I don't think you could do
That's
that.
their prerogative, right?
You're right, right, right. I remember one person said they said something smart to me a while back, like, hey, this and that, and I was just like getting smart back, but and it may have felt mean to them, and it may have felt like,
Yeah.
what's he mean? I was like, okay, hey, you're saying that I'm fake? I says, that's cool. I says, hey, that's kind of normal, for you to feel that, unless you've made conscious contact with it or with me doing that to help you out, so forth and so forth. And I says, but hey, you gotta call names. This is, but don't call me when your mom needs me.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're like, what do you mean by that? Nothing. Nothing. I'm just saying, this that. Like, oh man, like, hey, I didn't mean it in a bad way. I was just, yeah, I was
Yeah.
just, shooting right back there.
And are you getting people that are constantly asking you, like your friends and stuff, like, "Oh, I don't feel well," and or just are people constantly asking you to help them?
Um, no, they're people that I know. No, they're not
Okay.
constantly asking for me to help them. The
Yeah.
public, yes, but people that I know, no, they're not.
So when the public's coming in asking you, are you just like, "All right, make an appointment, like back off a little bit because it's too I feel like it would be so much."
Yeah, they'll just ask questions. Yeah, they'll
Okay.
just ask questions. And for someone who's like a non-believer, that's hey, that's totally fine. And I'll just go ahead and I'll take your questions. And I don't get damaged. My ego doesn't get damaged by
Yeah.
you
That's awesome. I
saying,
love it that you feel that way about it. Like, you're just like, "Let it roll off."
yeah, no, it's not going to help me to
Yeah.
feel like, oh, you don't believe me. Like, hey, I could care less. There's other people that after we've done something, they could tell you different. But hey, if you need it, good. If you don't, that's fine too. No big deal.
Do you help people with sleep issues? Like, I have a horrible sleep issue. If you can help that, I would make an appointment with you.
Yeah, no, you know what? That's funny. I have not. The only person I've had that has asked for that is my mom. That's about it.
Yeah.
She's the only one. It works for her, but I've never done it, with the public or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'd be glad to do something for you for nothing, and just to see if it helps you out or anything
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, my mom's the only one who's ever asked, about that with the sleep stuff.
Yeah, I think it's anxiety and sleep issues that I would maybe we'll book an appointment with you to talk about, so.
Sure. Yeah, no problem.
And my other I just have a couple more questions for you. What's the story about John, the guy that was in the hospital 3 doors down from your mom's room is such an amazing story. Do you have another kind of story where you're just like, I can't, like, it's so amazing that you were able to help these people, but do you have another story that's just like, this is so amazing that I was able to do
Yes,
this?
yes, I do, and it always stays on the top of my mind.
Okay.
It was like a few years ago. There was a guy, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. There's a guy across the street. He was in a wheelchair and he seemed slumped over. Now, me, my mom, and my son at the time, we're getting ready to leave, and my mom noticed the guy across the street. He was slumped over, and there's people there. And I rolled down the window so I could hear, and you could hear, people acting, scared, erratic, and so
Mhm.
forth, this and that. Give them some room, give them some space, give them some this and that. And then I'm like, oh, okay, there's something wrong with him. And all of a sudden, my mom's like, hey, can't you go across the street and help him? And then I heard out the left side of my window, he's not breathing. He has no pulse. He's not breathing. He has no pulse. We called the ambulance. We called the ambulance. And I'm like, I look over, like, oh my God. So I was like, can't you help him? He looks like he's dead. And I told him, I looked over at the guy, where he slumped over. I says, yeah, I think he's passed. And she's like, oh my God, how do you know? I was like, I can feel it. I think he's passed, but someone said ambulance, and the fire truck's only like a couple blocks away.
Yeah.
And then my son says, hey, can't you use your superpowers? I'm like, I look back like, you didn't go there.
Yeah.
And then my mom's got tears coming down. It's like, oh man, I gotta do this in front of all these people. My God.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go. And I didn't think about recording it. I should have recorded it.
Yeah.
I recorded the day after, and I'll tell you why. I walked across the street. There's people around him. I was like, okay. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, here comes the Nut Job of the Year award. It's gonna go to me.
Yeah.
And so I'm walking, and then people are like backing away because it's at the entrance of a store on the sidewalk. And I'm walking over there. And they're like, hey, like, don't just, he'll be okay. Just leave him, he's not breathing. He doesn't have no pulse. We all checked. This fire truck's coming. I'm like, hey, sir, like, hey, we already pushed him. We already did this. And this lady's like pushing him back and grabbing him by the shoulders. And he's just slumped and coming out like he's just lifeless. I said, okay, hold on. People weren't paying attention to me. And like a couple of people looked at me like, hold on. Like, who the hell are you? And so then, I just closed my eyes. And this time, instead of putting my head down, I put my head up. And man, I that was the most that I've ever felt. This white light, it almost like put a shock through me.
Yeah.
I can remember it like as if it was yesterday, even though this is years ago. And then I went by the guy, and then I put my hand on his shoulder, and then I did it again. And then I felt that white light go right through me, through him, where my hand was on him. I started touching him. Sir, hey. And I touching his neck and I'm putting the back of my hand towards his nose to see if he's breathing.
Yeah.
And, there was nothing. And I said, okay, you can get up. I said, you could get up. And I'm telling him. And then probably about 10 seconds later, he did.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, but now he's still slumped over, but he's got this breathing where he's just fighting to breathe, like,
yeah.
It was like that. And I was like, and man, I got this chill over my back, and I was like, I started sweating a little bit, and then boom, 10 seconds later, the ambulance comes right in front, and I just waved my hand. I was like, right here. So right here. It says he wasn't breathing. He didn't have this, no pulse. He's breathing now. He's breathing. He's struggling. And then boom, I just walked back to the car, and my mom is looking, and my son's looking. And then and she's like, hey, did you help him? I said, watch. And they're scrambling. They're going real fast. The ambulance and fire department guys to throw him on there, on the bed and so forth. And my mom said, what happened? I says, he'll be okay now. She's like, how do you know? I says, just watch. So they're rolling him out. I says, just watch, keep watching him. Where his arm is like hanging over the gurney. I said, keep watching him. Boom, he moves his hand. I says, hey, look, he's back. I said, look. I said, look. She's like, what happened? I says, he came back to life. She's like, oh my God. And then my son says, did you use your superpowers? I was like, what do you think? Of course. He's like, and then, my mom's tearing up again. She's like, oh my God. And my son's like, well, what did you do? I said, the same as always. I says, but he'll be better. He'll be good. I says, he'll be okay. I says, he'll be okay. I said, I don't know what was wrong with him. What happened? Why he stopped all the breathing, and he didn't have no pulse and no heartbeat. I said, but he'll be okay now that they got him.
Have you ever had like a Dateline or 2020 or any of those shows ever want to do interviews with you? Because I think it's pretty amazing.
No, I haven't. I have yet to do that. I have had somebody reach out for me for TED Talk.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to do that. At the time. But I think pretty soon that I'll go back over that and do that.
And have you ever thought about writing a book?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. I've
You
been
should.
procrastinating on that for about a year. I've been procrastinating. Yeah.
I mean, you could have a book just about the stories of the people that you've helped. I mean, that would be such an interesting read, I think.
Yeah, yeah, and that was one thing that I have thought. Just what you said right now, the stories of
Yeah.
like scenes part one and part two, because there's so many stories.
Yeah.
There's just so many, especially in the ERs. Like if someone calls me, hey, you need to come over here to this to our ER to this hospital. My grandmother's here, my aunt is here, my brother's here, my child's here, this and that. You come over, the doctor says it's not good. The doctor says they're not going to make it, or call the family in from whatever out of town because, there's not so many days or hours that, it's going to work, so, I'll do that.
And like my mom has like arthritis, right? And she had a shoulder replaced and it's hurting. If you were to meet with her, how long would it take for you to kind of meet with her? And then when would she start feeling better?
You usually start feeling better right away.
Really?
Yeah, right away. When I do something out of line with somebody,
Yeah.
what I normally do is I tell them says, hey, you probably feel it right now, but wait till you wake up, send me a message, let me know how you feel.
Okay.
When you wake up. I says, because we're online, there's like a time effect. I says, so just let it keep on, getting better and better. And then in the morning, send me a message. Let me know how you feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Xavier, I think that you're amazing. And I was so excited to interview you because you're helping people. I think it's so unique. I feel bad for people that doubt you or don't believe it because I think you have obvious proof. I love your NDE story also. I think because it's similar to what I've read about other people as well. So it's really, you're an amazing person. I'm so happy I got a chance to kind of interview you and let people hear who you are and hear about your gifts. So it's really amazing.
I appreciate it.
And now if somebody wants to get in touch with you, do they go to your website? It's xavierroman.com, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's xavierroman.com, or they could email me at x@xavierroman.com and it's schedule something.
Great. And if they do talk about, is it at a price is it a set price or is there a certain amount?
Yeah, no, it's a set price. I at first, I wasn't charging, anybody.
Oh, you weren't?
Yeah, I wasn't. Yeah, for like, I want to say like the first 6 months, I wasn't charging. But then it became overwhelming. I couldn't do my work.
Yeah.
I couldn't do my business work, and that was like eating so much time.
Yeah.
I was doing sessions at 1 a.m.
Wow.
4 a.m. 2 a.m. I mean, like I'd barely get any sleep. But I really didn't need the sleep because the sessions, when I would do it that late, even if I got like 1 hour sleep or something like that, I was so energized every time I do the session that like I really didn't need sleep. So that went well. But it just destroyed my time.
Yeah. So again, Xavier's website is xavierroman.com. He's also on Instagram at the Xavier Roman on Instagram.
Yeah, the Xavier R. Roman.
Yep, and I'm going to put both of these, his Instagram and the website, in the description of the podcast or the video that you're watching, so you can go and visit him and book an appointment or send him a message on Instagram and say hello. So thank you so much. Like I said, I'm so glad we got a chance to speak. You were an amazing guest, and I love your story, and I appreciate you telling my audience your story.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me as well, and thank you. For maybe this will help somebody out.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for listening. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave a message and tell us what you thought about Xavier's interview. Thanks so much.